We've heard many very sensible contributions from members across the issues in this debate tonight. I'd like to focus in particular on those that we experience in my constituency and many other parts of London towards the outer edge of the suburbs in Zone 6. For those who've not had the pleasure to visit Harefield in my constituency, it is well known as the last village in London to the northwest. To get there, you have to travel through proper English countryside surrounded by fields with grazing livestock, woods. It certainly does not feel like a part of our capital. And although it is served by a small number of bus routes laid on by TfL, we have to recognise that for residents there and in many other parts of the outer suburbs, the subsidy that is provided to travel only helps if you can access the transport network reliably. And for many places where there simply is not access to trains and tubes, that means that there is a restriction on the benefit that they see. And for many of my constituents in a place which is much more dependent upon the car than most of London, and also home to many cabbies and minicab drivers, the services that TfL operates to keep our traffic moving are also enormously significant, although afforded rather less attention under what feels like very much a Zone 1 mayor than we've seen historically. We do need to recognise that all of Londoners need to benefit from the services provided by TfL, and huge fan though I and my children in particular are, there is no greater pleasure than standing on the bridge and watching the tube trains coming in and out and working out which of the bus routes go where. We need to make sure that we are providing value for money for all Londoners in the way that TfL carries out its operations. Now, at the heart of tonight's debate is the impact on children and young people of the changes that have taken place and that will take place in the future. Now, London's local authorities have for a long time had programmes including the Safer Routes to School scheme to encourage children both to walk and cycle to their local school. There is the home school transport legislation which sets out a framework of distance around those routes. And of course, local authorities, in planning the new schools that have been required to meet the rising numbers of children in London, have always been cognizant of the distance to make sure that, as far as possible, every mum and dad, every child has access to a good local school. And it is, therefore, a reasonable challenge to TfL to recognise that a very significant proportion of the journeys that are undertaken by children are those going to school for well under the statutory distances. And therefore, I think it is a reasonable challenge that Transport Commissioners need to look at and say, given the difficult times that we face, the need to ensure there is proper social distancing on public transport, how do we manage that challenge as effectively as possible? But ultimately, Sir David, what this debate is about is not the niceties of the bailout package. A mayor of whichever political party needs to show that the fate of London is genuinely in his hands, that he is willing to take ownership of the challenges that present, whether it is COVID as today, or indeed the many other challenges that our city has faced in the past, and that the response that comes out of City Hall will command the confidence of all Londoners. And the challenge that we face, Sir David, at present, is that Sadiq Khan comes across as a nice, quite affable chap. He is clearly very good at PR, but he is just not very competent at managing the services and the finances of our capital city, not just in respect of TfL, but so many other things like the police. And we need to make sure that we bring about a change in City Hall that ensures that our city and my constituents have a sense that they have a leader in City Hall who can command their confidence and understands and is interested in the issues that concern them in the suburbs. That's why we need a change in the mayoral elections when they come up next year.